When it comes to fan games, they can be really hit or miss, but when they hit hard. Lisa the Pointless, for example. Amazing fan-made spin-off of Lisa the Painful RPG, and only months later arrives yet another fantastic Lisa fan game. I gotta tell you guys, it will never cease to amaze me how talented and passionate these fans are. The fact that they go so far out of their way to work on something like this, it's pretty crazy. Today we're talking about a Lisa fan game called Lisa the Hopeful RPG, created by a user called Taco Salad with some help from some others too. It came out in like March, I think. I don't know. I've been getting requests like out the ass for this one. And I mean the same thing for Lisa the Pointless too. But like I was a little more on the ball with that one. But then the developer messaged me. He was like, "Wait, don't play it yet, because we're doing like a big update or whatever." So for those wondering why this video took so long, that's why. Lisa the Hopeful is a fan-made spin-off of Lisa, obviously. Similar to Lisa the Pointless, it focuses on a different group of people simply within the same setting of Lisa. Whether it's before, during, or after the events of Lisa the Painful and Joyful isn't made entirely clear, and I kinda like that because it doesn't really matter. Hopeful focuses on three friends working for a dude named Rodriguez. You know how the world of Lisa is filled with gangs, each with their own crime lord or boss or whatever. This is definitely something similar. Three goons working for a big shot. Our heroes come in three: Belt Boy, Lanx, and Cyclops, their real names being Benny, Liam, and Clyde, respectively. Cyclops is the muscle of the group, sporting football gear, a single eye, and a whole lot of brawn. Lanx is the awkward kid of the bunch. He's skinny and wears glasses, kinda like the Ignis of the three, though I probably only think that because he's the one who drives the car. And lastly, we've got the main character, you know, the one you actually directly control, Belt Boy. He's the hot shot of the three, the badass. You know, he's got a mohawk, shades, an open leather jacket that always shows off his nips, and a shit-eating grin to top it all off. This cast is pretty different from what I'm used to seeing. I mean, we're usually either taking control of a gruff old man who knows a thing or two about martial arts, or, you know, of course, Buddy, the girl of the hour turned killer assassin. But here we're introduced to three random nobodies, just a group of dorks in a cruddy ragtag gang with the same old goal that every other pervert on the planet has: find the girl. It's a much different dynamic than we've seen going on before. These characters are just so wildly different and out there, and I really like that. We're seeing the perspective of just another gang going after the girl. We get to see all the shit that even guys like this have to go through to get there. And the chemistry between the three works well enough too. I mean, they're all old pals from way back when. We even get a flashback to when they all worked fast food together. Hang on. That's Wally Burger. Dude, that is a nice touch. These guys have all known each other a long time, and that comes across fairly well. I don't think it's as strong as the dynamic Joel and Alex had going on, but the fresher perspective alone helps make it really easy to get pulled into. The story kicks off with the three and their boss cruising around in their car when they run out of gas. After setting out on foot in search of some, things get completely out of control, and the trio finds themselves on their own without Rodriguez. Despite this, they decide to continue pursuing their goal of finding the girl. Now, while everyone else out there just kind of wants to finally get their dick wet, these three actually want to try to use her to save the world, which I honestly wasn't expecting from a group who looks like this. Belt Boy has his own personal reasons. We get flashbacks showing his connection to the girl, and there's a lot that implies that this girl actually isn't Buddy, meaning that maybe Buddy wasn't actually the last girl. This is just a fan game, of course, so obviously this isn't canon. Or maybe it is. Now, gameplay, obviously enough, is exactly the same as Lisa, as all of you probably guessed. Each character is unique enough to form a solid team. Belt Boy is the gunslinger, using WASD combos. Lanx is your healer and buffer without much real fighting ability. His standard attack is nothing more than just a slap. Cyclops is your powerhouse, also using WASD combos, but for tackling his enemies. This guy is the guy you'll use to dish out the pain. Now, I'm sure you're watching Belt Boy spray bullets every which way, and you're probably thinking, wait a minute, remember when Joel had a gun and he only had the one bullet, and you said, you know, in this world you might have a gun, but bullets are gonna be very hard to come by. Okay, so I've been meaning to clear this up, and since YouTube annotations aren't a thing anymore, I can't just like drop a note in the last video and be like, you know, like, I was wrong. It's not that bullets are scarce in the world of Lisa. I mean, you look at a character like Fly or now Belt Boy. bullets aren't scarce, it's that Joel's revolver took a very specific bullet, and he was really lucky to find one that actually fit his revolver, so I'm thinking it's more so that guns are scarce rather than bullets. So in this case, you could get stuck with the gun where, like, ammo's really rare, and you get one bullet, that's it, or you can get stuck with a gun where you can just frickin' One of my favorite things about these fan games is that while they do reuse a lot of Lisa's assets, the characters for the most part are all entirely brand new. Taco even went far out of his way to design his own entire gangs instead of just reusing the ones from Joyful. Early on, you'll have a lot of run-ins with these dudes wearing welding masks. They have their entire base of operations, and you find yourself smack dab in the middle of it, just trying to find some gas for my car, dude. Stop throwing bricks at me! Another one of my favorites is the Kegger Crew, a gang that is always extremely drunk and can't even stand on their own 2 feet. Though you'll encounter many members of the same gang, they're still all individuals with their own names and even sprites. The attention to detail and enemy individualism makes Lisa the Hopeful, like Lisa the Pointless, very true to Lisa the Painful RPG. It was one of my favorite aspects that every enemy you fought was unique, and it's so rad to see fans putting that same level of work into their own fan projects. Now, the gang that takes the spotlight is a group called the Lovelies. Their leader, Hart, I love that name, Hart, is the game's main antagonist. You'll have many run-ins with him throughout the gang. It seems everywhere you go, he ends up screwing you over some way or another. He's dead set on getting to the girl before you do, and with an army at his side, that kind of makes him public enemy number 1. As you go about your journey to find this girl, Belt Boy will sometimes have flashbacks to his youth. Each one strengthens his character and gives you more reason to want to see this guy meet his goal. Also helping with that are those iconic hallucination sequences, which are as awesome as they are freaky. Now, one thing I love seeing in these fan games is when they take things a step further, adding their own ideas into the mix. Lisa the Pointless had that genius scene where someone else makes a decision, amongst a couple of other things like the garbage trading and whatnot. Hopeful adds a really interesting spin on the platforming of all things. In this one marsh area here, there's mushrooms that give off spores that'll make you hallucinate. While under the influence, the screen will flip upside down, but that's not just cosmetic, it'll actually affect the way Belt Boy drops down, which is now actually up because the screen's flipped. While they seem like something you're supposed to avoid at first, you'll actually find yourself taking advantage of them to advance forward in really interesting ways. It's so cool. I'm really glad these guys aren't afraid to throw their own ideas into the mix. I mean, just because you're making a fan game based on something doesn't mean you have to restrict yourself to the rules of the source material. Don't be afraid to break those rules and take the game in your own direction. Speaking of direction, I find Hopeful went in a very different direction than Pointless did, not just in means of plot, but also in tone and structure. Firstly, let's talk about tone. Lisa the Pointless was a solemn, cheerful, and rugged fight for a better life. The characters were mature, and the chemistry between Alex and Joel was fantastic. Two complete strangers becoming closer and closer, sharing stories, becoming brothers who will die for each other. The mood was often grim. Areas were either dark and stained with blood, or intense, hot, and blinding. It was a dark tale of characters who try to keep their chin up and rise on through rough times. Hopeful, on the other hand, feels very different in means of tone. The characters are younger, skeezier. They're already buddies, but you see them struggle to stay friends as they try to settle their differences, making their own decisions now that they don't have Rodriguez to listen to anymore. Environments are often brighter, sunnier, much less grim than Pointless. Belt Boy always walks around with that big goofy smile. While less trashy and crude, it manages to be pretty silly. It takes itself a little less seriously, but still manages to tell a really good story. Now, structure-wise, Pointless had a lot of exploration. It was a very open game, but I also felt a frustration of failing again and again at trying to find enemies I could actually win in a fight against. Hopeful is a much more linear game, and while I do miss finding all those nooks and crannies, it at least helps the game's difficulty curve from being all over the place. Not to say there isn't any room for exploring, just nowhere near to the extent of the source material or Lisa the Pointless. Like right here, this dilapidated neighborhood, I really found myself wishing I could go in and explore more of these houses, which would have been a nice touch. One thing this game does have over Pointless though is pain mode. It's back, baby, here for the hopeful. Each save point can only be used once. You guys know the drill. Though I guess Pointless Pointless already kind of did that too, but having it as an option instead of it just being necessary is much preferred. There's also a bonus scene in the ending if you do manage to beat it on pain mode. In fact, Hopeless actually sports multiple endings depending on whether or not you decided to take joy throughout the game, and it not only affects the ending, but the final fight right before the ending too. I'm not going to show it in order to avoid spoiling it, but trust me, it is really cool. Lisa the Hopeful RPG is a complete package. I mean, not only does it have an ending, but multiple endings reflecting the choices you've made in your playthrough. It has been elaborated and fleshed out to such a finished state, yet they're actually not done making it. Pointless still had more chapters on the way by the time I reviewed it, but Hopeful is a finished game already, so what more can they add? Polish. Ever since the project got really far, more and more people from the Lisa community have been jumping aboard to help out. They've been updating character sprites, creating original music, adding all sorts of details and improvements. I played one of the earlier versions, so don't be surprised if it looks even better when you play it. It's honestly kind of heartwarming to see all these fans pitch in and help an already amazing project grow even stronger. It not only has the production value of a real Lisa game, but it also has the heart, soul, and passion from fans who deeply love this series. If you have not played Hopeful yet, links down below, you guys know what to do. I've said this before, but I'll say it again. It really is amazing what the fans can do. There's a special kind of passion in fans that you really don't see in AAA developers these days. It really is an amazing thing for something to inspire someone so much that they'll create something amazing based on what inspired them. You know, I really like the way these fan games are handled. You know, different characters, but in the same universe. It kind of subtly all connects to each other. Austin did say everything's canon after all, so I'm wondering when that Hopeful and Pointless crossover is gonna be. They could call it Lisa the Pointful.